My name is Steve Begg. I'm the president of RCE and the founder. So the beginnings of RCE really started in the mid-80s, mid-1980s. There was a group within John Deere that handled, they call them national accounts. They were certain industries, big industries. One of those was the railroad industry. There was one person that was assigned to that. He was able to come up with a couple of specialty products. It was a swing loader and it was a high rail backhoe. They were able to assign railroad specific dealers. There was only 5 of them in the country. We were one, and it was mainly because being in Chicago, based in Chicago, the railroads all tend to come through Chicago. We were doing a pretty good amount of business, but for John Deere, they want to make not only hundreds, but thousands of machines. And the railroads really need more specialized things, but it just wasn't enough volume for John Deere. We were doing most of the business, and in 1997, they decided that they needed to move on and do something different. We, at that point, made a deal with John Deere to buy that business from them. We bought up the inventories that were left, started the relationship up in Iron Mountain, Michigan, and then we ran from like 1997 up until 2007. At that point, the facility at Iron Mountain was kind of limited by the number of people and their tooling and all that, and we felt like we could do a better job in our own facility in Rockford, closer to the factories for John Deere, which we get the equipment from. And Rockford is full of fabricators and machine tool specialists and all that. So we don't necessarily do all of our own welding and machining, we do the engineering, and then we have vendors that come and supply those parts to us. They're inspected, they're painted, they're ready to be put together. Around 2000 and 2001, the major railroads, class 1s, were having issues with vegetation. And at that point, we had done some work with some brush cutting equipment. They really wanted us to do contract brush cutting for them. We were equipment people, we weren't contractors, but we tried it. We tried it for a couple of years. It wasn't the most successful thing. But what came out of it is a real understanding of what it's like to be on track, cutting brush, what equipment you need, and then we regrouped, went back to saying we're going to be a manufacturer and we're going to supply equipment to the railroads and contractors. At that time, we developed some new brush cutting equipment. When we were doing the contracting work, we had excavators up on carts. We realized that's not the best situation. You're up high, tippy, and just harder to logistically move around. And that's really where kind of the idea of the whole high rail excavator came from. We were the first one in the industry to high rail an excavator. We've got some patents on that. The nice thing about an excavator is, sure, it can brush cut one day, but you can put a bucket on it, you could dig with it, you could load a cart. It's a Swiss Army knife. In the infancy of RCE after 2007, we had a couple situations where we had one of the railroads come and they pretty much bought everything we could build in 1 year. And then that probably, we lost a little bit of our focus that way because you're just trying to build as much as you can. It's changed now. We've obviously grown. We've doubled our facility. We've got more capacity. But where the major railroads may not be doing as much, contractors are picking up some of that because there's a shortage of workers and people. Our people have a really good background in equipment and applications and actually what it's like to be out working with those, whether it's a wheel loader or an excavator or a loader backhoe or whatever. And then we can think very creatively on how we can adapt that machine to do a certain task. I mean, that's really where a lot of our products have come from. Somebody comes to us, they have a problem. I can't do this, I can't do that. And we try to come up with a solution to do that. So what's unique maybe with us being a manufacturer, especially in the rail industry, is that we do have a high content of equipment that is built by John Deere. And there's John Deere dealers all over the country that have parts available and they have technicians that could fix the equipment. They've got training. And we work with those people. We've got some of our technical people are actually trained instructors for mechanics for John Deere. So they can easily walk them through here. This part is John Deere. This is what we put on the machine. This is separate, but here's how to fix it. In 1997, when we acquired that business from Deere, there was only 2 models. It was like a 544 swing loader as is today. Obviously, it was an older version. And there was a high rail backhoe that it worked, but it didn't work that well again. But now there's 30 some models of tractors, and we've expanded the line exponentially. So the future's bright. We've got a good base of product. There's some new technology things that are happening that I think could really help us really separate ourselves from some of our competitors. We have great people, great salespeople, and we pride ourselves on listening to the customer and coming up with solutions. And I think in a lot of cases, that's what differentiates us. So we're at 27 years. So I think the 27 years has been pretty bright. And I just think the future is even more. We're positioned well to do great.